I have no idea how to tell you about this book. I'm not sure if this book was satire or not. I don't even know what my ultimate rating is at this point. I'm just hoping I find it along the way of explaining this book to you, so wish me luck. Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're talking about Pirate Captain Tharkia, an adult fantasy book about pirates by Ethan Carroll. This was requested to me for me to read by my patron, Ethel Golightly. Did I envision our main character, Pirate Captain Tharkia, as this? Yes, I did. Sue me, I guess. By the way, Tharkia is a giant. She is 9 feet tall with an extra 3 inches. So just up front, before we get into the details, this book has this paragraph in it. Her knockers didn't jiggle quite as much as they had at the start of the fight. That was because, in death, some of these humans had splattered directly onto Tharkia's chest. Their dried blood served to her as an insufficient bra. I don't know if that was satire or not. I have finished the book and I'm still not sure. So, on the other hand, this book is still better written than a lot of things I've read recently, and I think it does lore building better than things like Fourth Wing, at least, and it also made me laugh a couple of times. I really don't know how to feel, so let me just tell you what happens. I don't have a script, I just have highlights and my cell phone. I was going to give you the synopsis first, but this book is set up like the Witcher book, The Last Wish, which I do have full review on. It's down there in the description if you want to watch it. And The Last Wish is similar to this in that it's like interconnected episodes, and whereas, The Last Wish is interconnected episodes of what Geralt is doing, this one is interconnected episodes of what Captain Tharkia and her crew go through, along with like one overarching story that pops up a couple times throughout. So it's like start of the overarching story, and then you get a short story, and then you get an excerpt from the overarching story, and then so The Last Wish also does this. So it's like split up in several parts and several interconnected stories. This is even more adventurous and maybe even more graphic than The Last Wish is, both in the violence and the sex scenes. My God, the sex scenes were something. I'm still asking again if certain parts of this were satire, but all right. We get a author's note where he explains that this is sort of like a meta series, and also mentioning like this does feature quite a lot of violence. So if you are squeamish, be forewarned. And it says, as a further heads up, the subject of sexual assault is brought up in the episode Provender for the Wicked regarding a side character named Sarah, as well as in chapter 3 of Chased Silver in passing. When writing this, I flat out refused to depict anything explicit, and I otherwise strove to handle the topic with as little distaste as I could. However, I'm fully aware that for some people, this is a subject which can never be handled tastefully, and for whom the reminder of its existence is distressing. If you are one such person, I counsel you to proceed with caution. Your emotional/mental well-being is more important than the vanity I enjoy from somebody reading my work. With that out of the way, I invite you to read my book and make of it what you will. My deepest hope is that you enjoy this novel even half as much as I enjoyed crafting it. My goal first and foremost is to entertain and inspire. So because of that consideration for like the essay warning, I do think that some of this was satire. Like specifically the explicit sex scenes might have been satire. I just don't want to say or not for sure because it's not like it was ever said that it was. I don't know. But I really did appreciate that he not only said, hey, there's explicit violence, but there's also discussion of sexual assault. I tried to be as considerate as I could in writing it to, not depict anything explicit in regards to that, which is true. And I really appreciate that he especially said which chapter in which story it was. So that way, if you want to just read the rest of it, you can, or you can just like avoid the parts that might be upsetting to you. This is like a fantasy world with several different, species of beings, and they all hail from like different parts of the world. The overarching story that comes up multiple times is called Half Lake. And in the beginning of Half Lake, we're introduced to some guy named Daniel. The church essentially that Daniel's hanging out at is being come upon by pirates, specifically Darpos pirates. So Daniel's fighting off pirates. He's killing one, he's killing another. He gets hit in the leg with an arrow. He's seeing that the monastery is falling. Our main character, Tharkia, her crew starts coming on the scene. Now, part of the problem I had with this book is I had a real hard time differentiating the crew. Some of them I think had like really distinct qualities about them. It's just that I couldn't remember who was named which. And as soon as the pirates under Captain Tharkia come on the page, you can tell that they like have a lot of banter between them. And this stays throughout. And I think that the banter among pirates was so good. This was very much like the thing I loved, the thing that was so formative about Pirates of the Caribbean for me in like watching media now was not only, you know, I'm bisexual and I consider myself one of the Pirates of the Caribbean bisexual. Back and forth between all the different characters there is so good. And they have like lines and little quips that really stay with you in this piratey setting. And this is more of that. And as soon as Tharkia comes on page, and Daniel, the monk who's, you know, not going to make it out of this alive, assumedly, sees her, it says, "From the waist down, she was clad in trousers, boots, and a male skirt. From the waist up, she was clad in nothing, save for van braces, pauldrons, and a pair of studded gloves." This was where I learned that this book knew words that I do not know. I don't know what a van brace is. I don't know what a pauldron is. I had to Google all of this, and I had to keep Googling words throughout because this book is just generally more, at least well-read than I am. In her hand, she carried a sickle and a cutlass, the blades dripping with blood, the cover of her demonic eyes. Her skin, where it wasn't scarred, was the color of full moon, and her hair was a bold yellow, as of ill-tended teeth. So descriptive. It said, overall, her dimensions and her color palette reminded Daniel of a vampire from a distant planet, descended out of the heavens to terrorize the good people of Oraculora. So I guess they know about different planets, and the different planets are where vampires live, or something? I don't know. So one of Daniel's monastery comrades is not telling them where the treasure is, and Laura, who works for Tharkia, is like, hey, he's not spilling, he's not telling us where the treasure is, and we'll see how Laura came to work for Tharkia in a minute and how complicated that gets later. And Daniel's watching this and he's like, don't tell them where the treasure is. And the guy's like, I'll never tell. Just kidding, I'll tell. Because like, who wants to get gutted by pirates in the non-sexual way, am I right? Tharkia's like, tell us where the gold is. I'll let your friends live. And Daniel's like, you faithless bastard. All of you are such faithless bastards. I was the only one who stuck to my religious guns. And they like follow some god called Starhandle. There's a bunch of different religions in this book, which I like that it was similar to The Witcher in that way, and that we're going like all around the world traveling, just like we do with Geralt in The Witcher. We're traveling everywhere, and with Tharkia we're also traveling everywhere, and we're seeing all these different cultures and religions, which is cool. So these monks worship Starhandle. Daniel gets a weapon. He's like, I swear to Starhandle, I'm gonna kill you. You'll die like only a pagan deserves. I'm willing to die on my way out of this. I'm willing, as long as I take a few of you out, I'll die as an officer to the faith, defending Starhandle's coven. Either way, I'll die with more honor than any of you could boast. And he's gonna kill one of Tharkia's men. And he notices how much care she has for this pirate of hers under her wing. Daniel was struck with an epiphany. These pirates, these despicable, monstrous heathens, would do anything to save their friend, just as he would do anything to save his brothers in Starhandle. Such a revelation he was not prepared for. Daniel's grip on his brother's knife began to slacken. In an instant, the pirate Kupal, who he had taken prisoner, headbutted Daniel. And Kupal, when he grabs this knife that Daniel had, notices that his hand is burned afterwards. And Daniel's thinking, that's never happened before. I don't even remember the relevance of this is the problem. This is the problem with the issue I took with this book is that splitting it up, I didn't grasp a lot of it. That's a problem I had with The Last Wish too, is I don't like it being split up like that. It doesn't sink in. I can tell you the sequence of events that happens because it's satisfying in like some of my favorite books, like Mask of Mirrors. I can't tell you the sequence of events in this book because it's all over the place and it doesn't stick with me when that happens. And that's the same problem I have like months after having read The Last Wish. I can't remember the sequence of events. I can't remember what happens when. I can't remember what I was supposed to remember. And that's a personal problem. That's just something I struggle with as a reader who just really likes like a plot arc that is normal rather than like short episodic things all thrown together like this. That ends the first part of Half Lake, which is the one we get interspersed throughout. Chase Silver is the first official like episode. Tharkia is having sex with Fungar. He's a mercenary and he's about to leave to go do his work. She's a pirate. She's about to go do her work. And though he's about to leave, she wants more time with him, but she needs to pay back this person in order to get her first mate back or her second mate back. So she's like, all right, here's the plan. I'm going to go steal some loot somewhere. I'm going to make it back here in 3 days. I'm going to pay to get my first mate removed from the jail, and then I'm going to come back here and have more sex. And honestly, good for her. We love women making plans. We get introduced to more of her cohorts. There's like Gosi and Mari and Fauri and Tormund and Pankar. And a bunch of them are also Darpos like her, which means they're like super tall. They're giants, essentially. 9 feet tall, giant, non-human. So they're making plans to go steal some loot. They're all talking about like, all right, what are you going to do with your share? What are you going to do with your share? It's very pirate. And of course, Tharkia is a pirate captain. So she's like, well, I'm going to get my share. I'm going to pay off so that I can get Oreos out of jail. And then I'm going to buy a new hat. And then somebody's like, well, I need the money because my sister needs an abortion. And I was like, not the abortion rep. Good for you. And Tharkia thinks, I should probably stock up on a few of these potions. I love that this book is pro-choice. Like, sure, is the boob stuff kind of gonna get weirder and weirder as we go? Yes. But also, I like a pro-choice book. We get introduced to Mari, who's the navigator, the person up in the crow's nest. And she's up there shaving her beard. Girl, same. And then she calls down while she's doing this because she sees a ship and she's like, Captain, I think we have found our target. She says, we're only 5 days out. If we can whelm these traitors, then we can make it back to Sandbar, with as many as 5 days to spare, and we get Oreos free. And Tharkia's like, yes, and I still get to have sex with Fungar. So it turns out that Mari, as well as some people that they're about to run into and fight, are trans. There's a lot of trans rep in this book, which I was really surprised by. Whether or not it is good, I don't know what to like look for as far as like what's like appropriate, well done trans rep versus not, but I think it's good. So they go and they run into this ship, and there's a guy named Mad Kauros. The famous warrior stood 9.5 feet tall, 14 pounds of morning star rested in his pale hands, and a mail shirt rested on an equally pale frame. And it says that one of the people who's with Mad Kauros is also a trans woman. So there's like, you know, trans pirates and traders and all kinds of stuff. And Tharkia is like, hi, hello. We will be taking anything that does not move, but we won't take any more lives than necessary. We're not monsters. And Kauros is like, no, you're not making demands of us. And Tharkia is like, not you, cow roast. And at that point I did laugh. His name is Kaoros, and she starts calling him cow roast. That's hilarious. And he's on this ship carrying these other religious people called the Safe Sisters. And the Safe Sisters like, hey, maybe, you know, we can solve all this by telling you that there are riches that you don't have to steal from us. We could take you to them. There are greater riches that could be yours. And Tharkia is like, are you seriously trying to preach to me right now? And again, I thought that was very funny. And they're like, no, not your salvation. I'm being literal. This voyage was chartered by the Safe Sisters, so just like hear us out, take us up on our bargain. Don't steal what's on the ship. Let us take you to better riches. And it says everything clicked for Tharkia. Oh, I see, you're trying to barter your way out of being raided. Why didn't you say so? Very well, this will be fun. And at that point, I was also having fun. This was my favorite out of all of the stories for like fun purposes. The last one was my favorite for like plot purposes, but I wish that the plot in the last one had been the main one. So the Safe Sisters tell her, we're seeking sanctuary, and if you take us there, then you can have chaste silver. And Tharkia is like, Kauros, is it true that you're worshipping gods now? Because normally the Darkos don't worship any gods. And he says, Un Manog, the self-devouring god. You'd like him. He doesn't ask much of his adherents. That was funny. This book has a great ability to write pirate fight scenes where the verbal sparring has to be like just as good as like what's physically happening. And what's physically happening is also good. They're getting in a fight. Again, there are words I have to look up like Gambison. Just another word to Google. She cuts his morning star in half and he's like, that was my best friend. This tragedy shall be repaid. I will creep into your soul when you least expect it, and I'll butcher the ties that tether you to happiness. Your mother's veins will be strings for my lyre. Be warned, Captain Tharkia, I will come for you. And then he like leaps out of the ship. We do see him again later, but he doesn't, he's a prisoner. And Mari's like, Kauros was here? I hope you didn't make an enemy of him. He didn't sound too happy. He said something about making an instrument out of the captain's mother's veins, and Tharkia says, joke's on him, my mother's already dead. Mari says, oh, I didn't know that. And Tharkia says, an avalanche. What? This was the funniest out of all of them. And like, I thought that it was like really promising in the beginning. And like, I didn't think that that sex scene was like too over the top, but the next one that happened was definitely too over the top. And then the one after that, I was like, whoa, what is happening here? Why are we having sex in front of a bunch of gnomes? But she gets the money, she gets to break out her first mate, and she gets to go back and have sex with Funjar because they did in fact steal from the Safe Sisters. The next story is Laura's story, how she came to work for Tharkia. So Laura was working in like some city that Tharkia came to, and this other group of bad men who Laura had had a run-in with one of them, they ended up attacking, and it was sort of like a bunch of people against the bad men, against Tharkia and her people. And in the end, Laura had the chance to go off with her friend, Sarah, or go off with Tharkia, and she chose to leave with Tharkia. I thought that that was really interesting, and I think I would have preferred if we had had this book be like an overarching story where we started there and then led to the last story, which has to do with the sister that and the friend that Laura did not end up going off with. The next story is called Contracts in the Sand, and this is the one with the gnomes. The first chapter of this starts, Tharkia quivered as Mari slid her member into the captain's wet. And I was like, I wasn't prepared for sex. Funjar, the guy who she previously had, you know, the mercenary who she regularly has sex with, took her from behind, and the three of them helped each other thrust, sloshing the bathwater in which they stood. So it's a threesome. And like, on the one hand, good for them, and good for them being poly. On the other hand, I just wasn't prepared for a threesome in chapter 1 of this particular story. So then there's a knock on the door, and while Mari is eating out Tharkia, and she's literally ordering, these gnomes come up and they're like, hi, we would like to hire you. They're watching her get eaten out while they're explaining to her that they want to hire her. And I just thought it was a little much. It is cool that the gnomes have beards of grass, though. I thought that was pretty cool. So they're like, hey, there's something across the channel in Lurja, something the Lurshi took from us, which is very dear to our tribe, and we'd pay you handsomely if you could go over there and get it back for us. Will you accept our commission? And she's like, yeah, sure. This is the part of the book where they start calling, and here's the thing about this. I don't know how to take this because it didn't seem like an insult, but there is one guy on the crew who is a fat man, and they do call him Fatso, but it almost seemed as like a term of like familial endearment, the same way that like in my husband's Puerto Rican, and in his family there's a couple people that are called Gordito. So I feel like it was sort of like that. Like, it didn't seem all that demeaning, but it's still kind of jarring because Fatso is normally used as like a pejorative. So I'm not really sure. And this is one of those times where I'm not sure, which is shocking because normally it's pretty clear whether or not something's being fat phobic. I mean, I read the 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle and that was pretty blatant. In this, I don't know. I feel like it's just a nickname. I don't know. I don't really like that they call him the Fatso or Fatso, but it also doesn't seem to be like they're making fun of him for being fat in other contexts that, you know, makes like this feel like a pejorative. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm really unsure. You'd have to read it and tell me yourself. Like, they're more making fun of him for his wardrobe, like specific pieces, rather than his weight. So anyway, they're going to go get a special hat for the dwarves, essentially, and they have to go to Lurshi, the Lurshi island, and they go and they basically have to run a heist. Tharkia again is having sex, which of course, because she ends up seducing this one guy who is like the son of the lord at the house they're at in order to get it. But then there's this one part where like gnomes who are enslaved by these people are like watching them have sex, and it like literally says that the gnomes are masturbating watching Tharkia and this lord's son get it on, and I was like, this is kind of weird. It also, this book has this like downward trajectory where it starts with using the word breasts, which I find fine, and then it moves down to boobs, which I find kind of juvenile, and then it just at the end straight up says knockers. And so I'm like, oh, we just went It's not really a hat that they're after, it's more like a wig that they're after, by the way. Oh, this was another thing, is that the wig is mentioned to have, it says dreadlocks in it, and I think you're not supposed to say dreadlocks. I think you're just supposed to say locks. I'm going to leave this article down below if you would like to read up on this. They have to like run this con. They're pretending to be other people. This guy who previously had worked with two of the shipmates recognizes them, even though they're making out. It's like Mari and somebody else. They're trying to hide. They're like doing that thing where like, let's just make out to hide. It doesn't work. The guy recognizes them. They get chased down. They end up getting the fuck out of there with the gnomes' property. But then when they meet up with the gnomes set a trap where Tharkia ends up having lost both the ability to get paid and the wig itself. So then the last short story is them going to this island, and the story is called The Secret Society of Thane. And they're not there for any secret society. They're there to like ransack and do pirate shit, but they come across this like hidden temple. Some of them go in, Tharkia follows, and come to find out Laura's friend Sarah and her sister Dolly, I believe, are part of this secret society, along with a few other folks who are all trying to like slaughter creatures and offer these like different sacrifices, like literal like creatures like a coyote and shit. And they're sacrificing things to these different gods in order to bless this like secret society idea that they have to do amongst each other. And in this scenario, there are also reanimated corpses. That's right, there is necromancy. I am so excited there is necromancy. So amongst the like lords and kings that they work for, they've been distributing fake books that they have doctored and like tried to weasel these books into the way of getting like into the hands of the people that they work for, so that they can move their hired sorcerers into position and have them impersonate spirits of legend that they have created, like falsified. And they're like manufacturing problems that their lieges will look for answers for, and they will provide these like fake answers in order to like call off a war. And they're discussing different options that they can do to try to like really get the people that they work for to be in a position where they will do exactly, like, manipulate them to do exactly what they do. And they're like, well, what if we kidnap people close to them? And then it says it wouldn't do for them to remember that I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say it or not. It's this word of humans. This word is rooted in anti-Semitism. So I thought, I wish that wasn't in here because I was really liking this story. This was like my favorite plot-wise. So basically, Tharkia's people have been listening to this, and Pankar, one of her pirates, goes, so am I understanding that they intend to end the war by haunting their own lords? Tharkia says no, by making them think that they're haunted, but they're fixing to capitalize some pre-existing bugaboo tales to do it. But the important takeaway is that they want to end the war at all. And he's like, why don't you want to end the war? And Tharkia says, if they end the war that they're all in, where are their navies gonna go? And I was like, it's big brain moves, because if their navies don't have anything to do in the war, they're going to start patrolling the coastlines again, and that's bad for pirate business. So they get into a fight separately where, well, it ends up that Thrawn, one of the guys who was in the secret society, is actually working for his own motives. So Dolly and Sarah, the two who were friends who knew Laura, who works for Tharkia, Laura's back on the boat. So she doesn't know this is happening, but Tharkia's people get in a fight with Dolly and Sarah. Dolly ends up dead. By the end of the book, Sarah's like, I want revenge, which is rough because she was friends with Laura, and Laura has no idea that her shipmates killed her friend's sister. And by just happenstance, she ended up on the winning side of this situation by not choosing to go with Dolly and Sarah and learning to be a knight under Dolly like Sarah did, which I thought was really interesting. Again, I think that could have been like the overarching plot, and I probably would have liked this more. And also taking out those sex scenes. Are they satire or not? Is it making fun of like the oh my gosh, this is so over dramatic sex scenes, or was that supposed to be funny, or was that supposed to be taken seriously? So Thrawn ended up actually killing some of the people that he was in the secret society with, and he was like working to his own end. So a bunch of them are fighting before Tharkia even gets to Thrawn. It says the line where it's like, she's killing a bunch of people, her boobs are covered in blood and it's an insufficient bra, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? 3 of her shipmates get killed. Again, it's really hard for me to remember who was actually killed, but it wasn't Mari, who was, my personal favorite. So then she finally gets to like the back to the final chamber where Thane, who was part of the secret society, is, and he says, what took you so long? I was beginning to think you wouldn't be useful after all. I take it you have questions. And she says, to start off, what the fuck is going on? I thought you all were comrades. You killed them all. I thought you were fixing to escape together. And he's like, yeah, I imagine they thought that too. I'm like, wow, that is cold. And she's like, you cut through that one's armor. What kind of weapon is that? That's impossible. So he's like, so here's the thing. I'm a trans man, the son of a sorceress. This is where I get to the point where I'm not sure. I don't know if this is like appropriate rep or not. I'm not trans, I'm cis, so you can let me know. I will try to deliver this information to you as best I can. I was the son of a sorceress. Once I realized who my true self was, that it was making me miserable to pretend I was anything else, I begged my mother to conduct the necessary ritual. In time, she sensed how desperately I needed a body that would suit my soul, but she still was reticent to change me using her magic. I don't know if either of you know this, but when a mage undergoes a sex-changing ritual, there's no guarantee they'll retain their magic after transformation. Sometimes one awakens with all their powers intact, oftentimes one does not. My mother had reservations about her child taking what she deemed an unnecessary risk in order to assuage her and to hedge my bets, being I wanted to enter the business of combat. I spent my last days as a girl transferring my magic into the sword, grass, I call it. Most mages daren't transfer such power into an item lest it leave them crippled without it. But being I wanted to rule by the sword instead of a wand, I jumped at the chance, and now I can cut through most anything with a swing of my arm. Even without my former magic, I'm more than formidable thanks to grass here. And Tharkia says, that's genius. She said, I once had an enchanted cutlass for all of 4 days before I gambled it away in a drinking game. And she thinks, I came here to kill him alongside his comrades, but truthfully, I don't think I can. I don't think I want to now that I've talked to him. Besides, he already kind of got my revenge for me against the people that killed my people from my ship. So I wonder, with a king backing him, what else he could do for me. She says, give me your word that the captain of the One-Eyed Harpy, that's her ship, will always have a friend in your liege, Harold the Impaler, from here till forever. After all, we were instrumental in your plan, and it did cost me 3 of my best shipmates. It's the least you can do, so can you give me your word? And he says, Madam Pirate, I say you've got yourself an alliance. Harold the Impaler remembers his friends, as do I. So this guy is like not the ultimate bad guy, but again, I don't know if that was like an appropriate way to write gender affirmation in a magical way. Her other shipmates are like, so did you avenge our friends? And she's like, I got more than vengeance. I got an ally. And then the last part of Half Lake, the overarching short story, is them burying their friends. I thought that this was very creative. The end of it goes even deeper into like the lore of the world, which is really cool and really interesting, and it's just really unique overall. There were some things that first of all, I don't like the short story setup. It doesn't work for me, even if they are interconnected and have to do with each other. I just like a overarching one-go plot. You know what I mean? That's just my preference. I don't know if the trans rep was cool or appropriate. You tell me, preferably if you could read it and tell me, that would be great so you have the full context. I genuinely don't know. Some of the words in here, I was like, oh, I wish you hadn't said that. But again, some of it genuinely did make me laugh. I really got that sense of like being back watching Pirates of the Caribbean and watching the banter again, which was so fun and I really missed. It's hard to find a good pirate fantasy book, but then the sex scenes were so over the top. Like I didn't even read most of them because I was just like, whoa. I didn't read them out loud to you because I was like, hold on, just chill out. Why are we doing oral sex in front of gnomes? And it was like so over the top, and like how she was orgasming, I was like, stop. And then her sex scene with that Lord's son when they were trying to steal the headpiece, I was like, okay, this is going on far too long, far longer than it needs to. And I wasn't sure if that was commentary on the way that sex scenes are being written nowadays, or if it was, again, was it supposed to be funny? Was it supposed to be taken seriously? I literally don't know. I did have fun. It did feel adventurous. I really did like that last story. I just wish that it had panned out more, that we had actually seen like these people do this like secret society that destabilized and ended a war, that destabilized like this war that kept on going and end it. I thought that was kind of a genius idea. I do like that Tharkia got a ally out of it. I just would have preferred to see like it actually pan out on page, like that. I'm a plot girly, so yeah, that would have been my preference. But I didn't really hardly see any typos. I thought on a line level, this was certainly better edited than like Fourth Wing. Its descriptions made sense. I'm really not sure how to feel about this. I don't know. I guess maybe a 2.5. I don't know. So many conflicting feelings. Let me know your thoughts, and if you're going to read it, comments and questions down below. Leave your favorite pirate-related emoji down below, and I will see you next time. Bye! And before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Astrid P, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Choco's Trash for Japanese Mysteries and Thrillers, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, EK Casey, Ellie, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric GalaxyBot, Jess, John E, Julie D, K, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lictor of the Undying Josh. Lictor? Lichter? It can't be licked, can it? I don't know. Lady Chips, Lemon Jelly, Lily B, Max B, Min B, Mommy Zombie, Alice, Panoramic Demon, Peggy Luhu, Rain, Ree Mirage, Reese, SJ, Samar, Scarlet, Shiny, SMK, Spoopy, Steph B, T Delegati, 2 Orbit, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, Zorvictia, and Chai Guy. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. And last but not least, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my potato starch Marxists, and those are AB Daniels Anaki, Alejandra, Alicia Herbie Derby Do. Alicia, what did you change your last name to? Althea, Amanda D, Andy, Angelica, Armadildo. Armadildo. What are you guys doing? Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe, Bookish Brainrot, Bookish by Jenna, Bree, Kate B, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, CJ, Claire Online, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorothea, Drive-By Thinker, E.T. Cosgrove, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Emma Kingsbane, Ezra Moon, Fiona, Francis, Gadarn, Hannah Bunny, Hannah C, Harpy Kuro, JM Tennant, Jay's on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Gender Queer, Jenny G, Jessa Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Juicy Wizard, Kat, you guys are killing me, Catherine, Katie L, Kaylee, Kayala, Kendra, Kitten, KMTV, Laughing Cat Dog, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Luciri, Lustful Octopus. Oh man, that reminds me of that Kraken book I just read the other day. Martin, Maddie Moen, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Marquita, Megan, Malara, May, Mima Who, Molly, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nemeska, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Paul, Penelope G, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pandemonium, Queen Cereal, Rachel B, Reba, Rebecca R, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Sikoria, Saintbringer, Sakia Lume, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sisette, Sophie, Talia, Tiana, Trashcan Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, Wobbs. It says Wobbs. I am going to need you to tell me how to say that. It's WHAABZ. Is it Wobbs? Help me. Writer A and multi-level marketing scheme with a W. Oh my God, you guys kicked my ass today. All right, thank you.